If you've ever worked delivery, you know the strange mix of routine and unpredictability that comes with the job. You expect long hours, heavy boxes, and plenty of doors slammed in your face. But every now and then, something happens that you can't shake off, something that crawls under your skin and stays there for years. My name's Michael Harris. Back in 2010, I worked as a UPS driver in a small town in North Carolina. It wasn't the prettiest place. Quiet roads stretched between scattered houses, most of them run down or sitting on big empty lots. Driving those routes at night could feel like you were the last person left on Earth. Most nights, nothing out of the ordinary happened. Just packages, signatures, and the occasional barking dog chasing me back to the truck. But one winter evening, I found myself at a trailer home that would change the way I looked at the job forever. I didn't know it yet, but that stop was going to be the one that convinced me to leave UPS for good. And if I'm honest, even now, years later, I still get chills when I think about what I saw inside that house. It was a little after 6 in the evening when I pulled my truck onto a narrow 2-lane road just outside of town. The sun had dropped below the tree line, and what little daylight was left was fading fast. That time of day, when the sky can't decide if it's still evening or already night, always made me feel uneasy. I checked the package label again. A trailer home at the end of that road. Signature required. Normally, I didn't think much about where a package was headed. You drive, you stop, you drop, you go. But something about this delivery already felt different. As I rolled past rows of spaced-out houses, I noticed how quiet everything was. Not the kind of quiet you get in a peaceful neighborhood. This was heavier, like the silence had weight to it. Most of the houses had no lights on, no kids playing in the yard, no TV glow in the windows, no sounds of life. Just darkness. The farther I drove, the rougher the road became. Potholes rattled the truck, and bare branches scraped across the roof as I passed under leaning trees. In my rearview mirror, the town looked farther and farther away, swallowed by shadows. Finally, I spotted it. A lone trailer home, sitting at the very end of the road. The siding was faded, the porch steps sagging under years of neglect. No lights inside, no sign of movement. If not for the address stenciled on the mailbox, I might have thought the place was abandoned. I parked in front, engine idling low, and just sat there for a moment with my hands on the steering wheel. My gut told me this stop wasn't going to be like the others, but the package was marked "Signature Required," and company policy didn't care much about gut feelings. So, I grabbed the box from the back, heavy enough that I had to balance it against my hip, and walked toward the porch. The boards creaked under my boots. Each step echoed louder than it should have in the cold night air. When I knocked on the door, nothing happened at first, just more silence. I tried again, 3 hard raps with my knuckles. This time I heard the faintest shuffle inside, like someone dragging their feet across the floor. A few seconds later, the door cracked open. Standing there was an older woman, maybe late 60s, thin, pale, with wide darting eyes that never seemed to settle on me. She didn't greet me, didn't even look at the package, just stood there like she'd been caught doing something she wasn't supposed to. "Package for, Mrs. Collins?" I asked, checking the label. She nodded quickly, almost too quickly, and whispered, "Yes, yes. Please, bring it inside." Her voice trembled. Her hands shook on the doorknob. She looked nervous, jittery, like she was hiding something behind her. Normally, we weren't supposed to step inside a home. Liability reasons, company rules. But she kept insisting. saying the box was too heavy for her. I glanced over my shoulder, back toward the empty road. Not a single car in sight, not a single neighbor looking out from their porch. Just me, her, and that dark, silent trailer home. I stepped through the doorway, careful to balance the box against my hip. The moment my boots hit the carpet, the smell hit me too. It was faint at first, like something damp and spoiled, but the deeper I walked, the stronger it became, a sour, rotten stench that clung to the back of my throat. I'd been in plenty of old houses before. Must, mildew, maybe even an animal that crawled under the floorboards and died. But this was worse. It was the kind of smell that told you something wasn't right. The woman shut the door behind me. That sound, click, felt heavier than it should have. Like I had just cut myself off from the outside world. Just down here, she said, pointing to a narrow hallway. Her voice was strained, like she was forcing the words out. I hesitated. Every instinct in me wanted to set the package on the nearest table and walk out. But company rules were drilled into me. Get the customer to sign. Make sure the package is where they want it. And besides, what was I going to say? Sorry, ma'am. Your house smells bad. I'm leaving. That wasn't an option. So I adjusted the box and followed her. The hallway was dim. No overhead light. Just a small lamp at the far end. The walls were lined with old family photos, most of them faded or tilted sideways. A man in a military uniform, kids sitting stiffly in church clothes, black and white portraits that looked decades old. Their eyes followed me as I moved. The carpet squished under my boots, damp in spots. The smell grew thicker. My stomach turned, but I kept walking. In here, the woman said, stopping at a door halfway down the hall. She pushed it open with a shaky hand, revealing a room swallowed by darkness. No lamp, no window glow, just black. She pointed toward a closet on the left side. Inside there, she whispered. I squinted, trying to make sense of the space. My brain was screaming at me. Something's off. Something's wrong. But I forced myself forward. The box was heavy. My arms aching as I shifted it against my chest. I stepped into the room, my boots sinking into soft carpet. The smell was suffocating now. I wanted to gag. I reached the closet, pushed the box forward, and that's when I froze. Because in the far corner, where the shadow should have been empty, I saw it. A shape. Not furniture, not boxes. A person. Tall, standing completely still, pressed against the wall like they were waiting for me to notice them. My breath caught in my throat, my body locked up. I couldn't even blink. For a second, I told myself it was a coat rack, a trick of the light. But deep down, I knew better. I could see the outline of shoulders, the tilt of a head, the subtle rise and fall of breath. That shadow in the closet, it wasn't just a shadow. I could feel it staring at me. My heartbeat hammered so loud in my chest I was sure the woman could hear it. Every instinct in me screamed, don't turn your back. Don't move too fast. Don't breathe too loud. The woman's voice cut through the silence. Put it in there, she whispered again, sharper this time. Her tone had changed. I was less shaky, more demanding. I couldn't move. My arms tightened around the box, but my legs were locked in place. That figure, it hadn't shifted, hadn't twitched, but I knew it was alive. Then I saw it, the smallest detail that confirmed everything. In the darkness, near where its face should have been, a faint glint. The wet shine of eyes catching the little bit of hallway light. I dropped the box. It hit the carpet with a dull thud. I didn't wait to see if the figure moved. I spun around and bolted for the door. Behind me, the woman screamed. Not a startled scream, not a scared one. This was angry, furious. "Get back here! Get back!" Her voice cracked into a raw howl, words tumbling into curses as she chased after me. My boots pounded down the hallway. The photos on the wall blurred past, faces watching me as I ran. I could hear her feet slapping the floor behind me, closer than I wanted to believe. I didn't dare look back. I slammed into the front door, twisted the knob, and yanked it open. Cold night air rushed against my face. Freedom. I sprinted down the porch steps, nearly tripping, and lunged into the truck. My hands shook so violently I could barely jam the key into the ignition. As the engine roared to life, I glanced up at the trailer one last time. The woman was standing in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the dim hallway light, and behind her, in the darkness of that room, the second figure stood, motionless. Watching me leave, I floored the gas. The truck lurched forward, tires spitting gravel as I tore down that empty road. My chest heaved, lungs burning, hands slick with sweat against the steering wheel. Even as the trailer shrank in the rearview mirror, I couldn't shake the image. That figure, tall, silent, waiting in the shadows. What would have happened if I hadn't left the box? What if I'd stepped closer? The thought still makes my stomach twist. I don't remember much of the drive back into town that night. Just the blur of trees whipping past and the constant hum of the engine as I pressed harder and harder on the gas. By the time I reached the main road, I was drenched in sweat. My shirt clung to my back, my hands trembling against the wheel. I pulled over at a gas station, killed the engine, and just sat there with my head resting against the steering wheel. My whole body was shaking. I told myself to breathe, just breathe. But even in that brightly lit parking lot, surrounded by the ordinary noise of cars and people going about their lives, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me. That if I looked in my side mirror, I'd see that tall figure sitting in the back of my truck, waiting. I must have sat there for 20 minutes, trying to convince myself it hadn't been real. That maybe the shadows had played tricks on me. That the smell, the silence, the woman's strange behavior, it was all just coincidence. But the more I replayed it in my head, the more I knew that wasn't true. I knew what I'd seen. Those eyes in the darkness, the shape of a body pressed against the closet wall, the way the woman's voice snapped when I tried to leave. I couldn't shake the thought. What was their plan? Was I supposed to step closer so they could grab me? Was the woman luring me in while someone else waited in the dark? Or was it something worse? Something I still can't explain. That night was the first time I truly realized how vulnerable delivery drivers are. You're out there alone, driving to places no one else wants to go, knocking on doors you know nothing about. Every house, every customer, every stop is a gamble. And sometimes you lose. The next morning I called in sick. The day after that, I told my supervisor I was done. He tried to talk me out of it, said it was just stress, long hours. But nothing could change my mind. I wasn't about to risk stepping into another house like that again. It's been years since then, but the memory hasn't faded. In fact, some nights it feels sharper than ever. I'll be lying in bed, drifting towards sleep, and suddenly I'll see it all over again. The hallway, the closet, the figure in the corner, motionless, waiting. And every time I think about it, I feel the same chill run down my spine. The same instinct to get up, grab my keys, and drive as far from that memory as I can. That was the night I knew. I was finished with UPS, finished with late-night deliveries, and finished with houses that looked a little too quiet at the end of the road. So that's my story. The night a simple delivery in a small North Carolina town nearly ended in something I still can't explain. Even now, more than a decade later, I think about what might have happened if I hadn't trusted my gut. If I had set that box all the way inside that closet, would I have walked back out of that trailer? Or would that have been the last stop I ever made? I'll never know. And maybe that's for the best. If there's one thing I learned from that night, it's this. Always listen to that little voice in your head when it tells you something's wrong. Because sometimes it's the only thing standing between you and a nightmare you don't walk away from. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever had a chilling delivery or late-night encounter of your own, I'd love to hear it. Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more true horror stories like this, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Until then, drive safe, stay aware, and trust your instincts. My name's Michael Harris, and I'll see you in the next story.